Hey. Okay, lesson 21, if I didn't miscount. So we've come a long way together. We are starting today again with a short test, just for questions. Then the homework review. Yeah, that was just 2 pages. Might have been a little bit more difficult, and that's a-okay. Then one more time, we will read both dialogues of chapter 8, and then we will finish the grammar points of this chapter. Genki talks about this concept of no ga hiki desu and no ga jōzu desu. We have that in the dialogue, but I also want to talk a little bit more about in detail about the snow particle, which we already know, but there's another form or another usage of the no particle as a nominalizer. So you turn essentially verbs into nouns, and then you can treat essentially the verb as a noun in all other forms that we know of when it comes to nouns, including a noun ga hiki desu or a noun ga jōzu desu, right? So conceptually, this will introduce a lot more possibilities. But then, of course, we follow that up with the exercise and talking about things that you like to do and or things that you dislike to do, and then also things you're good at or things you're bad at. And then Genki also introduces the subject particle ga. This will not be a comprehensive overview. Katenchian Sensei actually wrote his master's thesis on it, or at least one of his works. So kind of like the difference between wa and ga. It's a little bit more complicated. And Genki, even this 3rd edition, also does not do a great job of explaining it, but in all fairness, it's complicated. And even Japanese people, it's more of a feeling thing. It's like, yeah, I just know what to do, what to use when. And then we finished the chapter 9 kanji. There are 3 more kanji. One I thought I already did, but that was just part of the review section. So 3 more kanji to learn. And that will be it for today. Okay, but first of all, how do we say today is the 25th of April?
Ni 25日
今日は month first April.
4月
4月 はい。And then
今日は
25th day.
4月25日です
日です。はい。はい。
日。そう、5日です。
はい。今日は4月25日です。Finally, for the days, we have a regular reading. Hi. Okay, so this is the test for today. As always, please give me a thumbs up or a signal when you're done. I will cap this at 5 minutes today. And to introduce a little bit of time pressure, I'll pause the recording now. 早いです。いいですね。Okay, what do we have for 1番?
C.
C. 毎日. And then do we remember the next kanji?
No.
Oh, it's te o erao. It was actually the same question of last week, just asking for something different, right? So last week we had mainichi and then actually had te as the word to be inserted. So we had hare and komori there. So mainichi te o arau, which is fine. We've seen this a couple of times, like including in Yotsuba, but we haven't formally learned it yet, but we'll see it today some more because it's part, funny enough, of Joso and also Heta as well. What means to be good at and to be bad at, respectively. Okay, Niban. Niban.
For this one, I got A. It's kyo.
Hai, kyo. And then heia o souji shimasu. Right, today I will clean my room. I will sweep my room. Right. And then sanban.
I got B.
B.
Got
Okay.
D.
D. Yeah, it is D.
Oh.
Bishoujo. Right. Creepy
I remember
jumbo.
this from. Oh, is that? I thought it was Yotsuba that said that. But yeah, I do remember the word shoujo, which is how I figured it out.
Exactly, right? Shoujo. Right. So we didn't cover specifically Utsukushi or B in this case, right? But you're right, shoujo, right? Is young woman, right? So, and shoujo in part here is only present in D. And to be fair, words change, like so there could be 1010 at some point, right? But this is actually that we covered during our manga reading club, right? So this was specifically, especially the what bishoujo da, that was creepy jumbo, right? And then Yonban.
I got C.
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 Okay. I tricked you.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, why C? I mean,
I thought that was E. Kanji.
Well, it is, right? And especially since it's so close to ku, right? So your mind might already be in terms of movement, right? Okay, but remember what we're covering this chapter, part of it, right? So, Meri-san wa ku to itte imashita. What does this sentence mean?
She is coming. That's what she said.
Exactly, and to say is this one, the gomen.
D?
So it's D. D.
Oh, it's D.
Yeah.
Oh, because the context is different.
Yeah.
I see.
So C and D would fit, right? B does not fit, right? And so does A, does not fit. A I put in there because, I figured, there's part of the U in here, right? So if you look at the left part of the kanji for hanasu, right? Or hanashi, it's the same as this U, right? To talk here. So there's some concept of speech, but like there's no kunyomi reading of this kanji that fits this. And we know this is haite, but this is actually to enter in this case. So, but also so there's kind of a directional verb, right? Which again, kind of is close to ku, right? So yeah, just be careful. Sometimes in a JLPT, at least at the N5 and N4 level, I'm told answers are a lot more straightforward, right? But I know as a fact at N3 sometimes answers look there might be two answers that kind of fit, and then you have to look a little bit more careful. Yeah, so sorry about that. I tricked you, but well done. And fast, which will be more important as well. So CADD. Okay, so let's look at the homework. And again, if this was difficult, don't know if you saw the message I put in the Discord channel yesterday. So feel free to put that also in the Discord chat. But let's see what we have here. So we had in the workbook, page 81, Ichiban right? So 毎日楽しいですか?
So to be sure that I understand, tanoshi, isn't that like fun or interesting?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so I put tanoshi nai to itteimashita.
Okay, and who said that?
Oh, well, I pretended that I interviewed James. So these are all things that I think that James would say.
Okay. Right. And James-san, what do you have?
I used people in the book and also from anime. So I said Mary-san wa mainichi tanoshi ita to itteimashita.
Tanoshi to itteimashita?
Tanoshi ida.
Okay.
So I'm trying to use informal affirmative.
Okay. So let's look at an example here, right? So I said, this is not what she would say, but I use tsuma meaning my wife, right? Tsuma wa mainichi tanoshii to itteimashita, right? So the e adjective tanoshi stays the same, right? Tanoshi and then to itteimashita. So what comes before to needs to be in short form. And then to negate it, right? I used omoi-san from Naruto. Wa mainichi tanoshiku nai to itteimashita. So that would be, well, not every day is fun, right? Omoi-san said, and I was there to hear it. So short form and put that, yeah, so conjugate, in this case, the e adjective, conjugate that. In the affirmative, it's just you're already done, right? The e adjective, the short form positive is just the e adjective in its dictionary form. And if you negate it, then it would be replacing the final e with kunai.
Okay.
Hi. Okay, let's go to 2番。どんな果物が好きですか? はい、カティアさん。
グレープフルーツを好きくないと言っていました。
Okay. Yeah, so James-san はグレープフルートが好きじゃないと言っていました。And because ski is a not adjective, right? And that conjugates just like nouns in that if you want to put that into negative, you follow that up by janai. Hi. James-san, what have you written?
Hi. I wrote, Akumi-san wa ringo ga suki da to ittaimashita.
Perfect. Ringo. Hi.
He likes apples.
Hi. Okay, so there's an example for the positive or the affirmative, right? So sensei wa mikan ga suki da to itteimashita. Mikan is kind of like a mandarin, like a orange kind of citrus fruit, right? So suki da to itteimashita, right? And donna is of course what kind of fruit. And then for the negative, I used shogakusei. Do you remember what shogakusei is?
Young student?
Yeah, exactly, right? So elementary school, actually elementary school student, right? But it would be a young student, most likely, right? And then here I used nanimo, which is has been introduced last week in the section nanika versus nanimo. So nanimo suki janai to itteimashita, right? So our shogakusei does not like any kudamono, any fruit. Right. Okay, so talking about mikan. So this is a pun in a photo, dajare, a bad one. This is a arumikan no ue ni arumikan. Again in hiragana, arumikan no ue ni arumikan. And this is also a reason, I mean, yes, this looks funny, but for this is why there's different writing systems, right? Arumikan no ue ni aru mikan. So, koro wa arumikan no ue ni arumikan desu. So, arumikan means aluminum can. Right? No ue ni, on top of, right? We know that. Aru, exist. Mikan, the Mandarin orange, right? And so actually, aru mikan no ue ni aru. So this is actually qualifying the mikan, right? So we've only seen this kind of structure seen a couple of times, and I'll learn it formally in probably a few weeks, right? So to make a complete sentence, I can say kore wa, as for this, arumikan no ue ni arumikan desu, because all of this is just describing the mikan, the Mandarin orange that exists on top of the aluminum can.
I have a question.
Hi.
Why do you have can written in hiragana instead of katakana?
Oh, can?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this kanji here?
Yeah.
It exists in, so this is actually, this is not a loan word. So can and kan sound different, sound similar, right? But this is actually not imported as a loan word. So it exists on its own. So there's a, let me see if I find that.
So it's
Oops.
I forgot what it's called. When two things exist on different sides of the planet and they evolve into the same thing, but it's a coincidence. They're not a thing of each other.
I would say so, but I cannot be sure which derived from what. But to give you, I'm just gonna post that into the general channel. So there's a Jisho entry. So kan is actually an onyomi reading, but it also has a kunyomi reading of kama, right? And so it's also used for canned food, for example. Yeah, but I guess the answer would be, oh, it exists in the Japanese language independently. Hi. Okay, 3番。よくお酒を飲みますか？ 3。
I wrote down Takeshi-san wa yoku osake o nomu oiteimashita.
Perfect, very good. Hey, Katya-san.
I have mirunai toiteimashita.
もう一度お願いします。
mirunai toiteimashita.
見るないは何ですか？
Oh, I think I meant nomu. Sorry, I don't know why I wrote miru. So nomu nai toiteimashita.
飲まない。
Oh, nomanai.
はい。はい。Can say あんまりお酒を飲まないと言ってました。Right? So Yoko asking here for the frequency, not necessarily do you often drink sake, which yes, but also asking for frequency. So it doesn't have to be a yes or no question. It's asking, for example, about the frequency of drinking alcohol. So the first answer in line with grammatically what Jameson had. For me, it's Tsunade-sama wa yoku osake wo nomu to itte imashita, right? So it stays in the dictionary form, right? Even though she probably wouldn't say that, but she does, right? And for example, not at all, right? Tsuma wa, so my wife, zenzen nomanai to itte imashita, right? So yoku nomanai to itte imashita is understood. That works as well. But usually if you go along the way of not at all, right? That would be zenzen, or like seldom, you would more often use ammari instead of yoku. Yoku is often more used when you say when you answer in the affirmative as often. Hai. Okay, let's go for Yonban. So Yonban, we have Donna sports o yoku shimasu ka? James-san.
I wrote Mary-san wa tennis o asobu to ite imashita.
So yeah, so for to play tennis, right, we would say tennisu suru. So yeah, to do.
What is asobu?
Asobu is to play, but we don't say to play tennis in Japanese the same way. It's more like to do tennis. Like asobu can also mean like, you know, more general, to play or to hang out, right? To I guess have a good time. But to play a game, for example, would also be game or game suru. Just like tennisu suru, tennisu suru would be used. So the sentence would be Mary-san wa tennisu suru to itte imashita. Or yoku tennisu suru oと言っていました。すみません。もう一度。メイリさんはよくテニスすると言っていました。はい。カティアさん、どんなスポーツをよくしますか？
I think I misunderstood the question. So the answer that I wrote is スポーツをしないと言っていました。But Donna is asking what?
そうです。はい。
Which I didn't pay attention to. So I guess it'd be BJJ をすると言っていました。
そうです。ジェームスさんは柔術をすると言っていました。毎日。今は毎日じゃないで。はい。はい、5番、ジェームスさん。兄弟がいますか？
海さんは兄弟は匠さんは兄弟だいないと言っていました。
兄弟がいないと言っていました。はい。
Yeah, I wrote 兄弟だいないと言っていました。I was saying, I'm trying to say his siblings do not exist.
はい。兄弟がいない。
Da, okay.
Yeah, so no da. So kyodai ga, and then we have the dictionary form iru, right? So it's ichidan doshi, so inai. Kyodai ga inai to itsute imashita. Just to say there are no siblings.
Oh, so ikinai is not correct.
No, that is to live, right? Ikkyu, which is a phenomenal movie by Kurosawa Sensei, 1952, I believe. Hey, Katya-san.
弟いると言っていました。
そうですね。が言うと、はい、大丈夫。はい。
Okay. I wasn't sure because I was like, well, Iru, like, he exists. It's a person. So I was like, I figured it's Iru, right?
そうです。はい。はい。いいです。はい。6番、どこに住んでいますか？ジェーンさん。
どこに住んでいますか? This means, where do you live?
はい。
メリーさんは日本に住んで生きると言っていました。
住んでいる。Because 生きる。Yeah,
oh, yeah, because I'm confused about this. So I think I keep mistaking ikiru for iru.
That's new. But it's, yeah. So, 住んでいる, right? So it's the te iru form. And this iru does not mean to live, right? It's not ikiru, which is a little bit different. Iru is more of a general existence kind of thing for animate things, which is different than, so in ikiru there is a component of life in there, which technically also exists in animate things, but ikiru exists by itself often. Iru, yes, too, but it's also used in more combinations like sundiru, right? So you have the te-iru form, or where something exists. So yeah, for this one, Mei-san wa Nihon ni sundeiru to itte imashita. Because sundi ikkyu would mean to reside and then live.
What's the difference between the two verbs? I don't totally understand it. Well, I understand iru is to exist for living things. It's like a cat exists. Right.
Yeah, I guess in this context, you can think of it as a helper verb also, right? If that makes more sense. But because we have like the te-iru form and we have different things that we use it for, right? Or the te form specifically. But the te-iru form is like, okay, there was a change, right? And the result still is in effect. And you have that using the te-iru form, like sunni-iru, like you moved somewhere, right? Which sundi does not, or sumo does not mean, but this is more like to reside, right? But it only means like to currently reside if you use it with the te-iru form, so sundi-iru. That's why, I guess that's why Genki introduces verbs like that often as like, this is the verb, right? Like shite-iru, to know something, right? It's the same with sundi-iru. But ikiru is just to live. It's a, yeah, and we haven't really covered that in Genki yet. I'm not sure if it's even part of it, but you have all these different forms using iru and aru, which you can kind of see as base level verbs that have that convey more complex thoughts and meaning using other verbs. But to use sundi iku, that can only mean really the te form as a sequence of things you do, right? Like asa wo kite kohi o nomimasu. I get up in the morning and I drink coffee, right? Would be the same with sunde iku. Like I'll reside there and then I'll live. Which is different than what you're trying to convey, that she's currently living there. Hi, Katya-san.
Los Angelesを住むと言っていました。
So sumo also takes the ni particle, just like in the question, right? And then if you just use sumo as a dictionary form, so Los Angeles ni sumo to ite imashita, this has the meaning of, I heard, in this case, Jameson say that he will live in LA.
Oh.
And it's the same concept. Like sundi iru means to currently live at a place. Like sumo, it has the meaning of like the future part of the explicitly, right, to going to reside sometimes in the future. Just like shiru by itself means to get to know something, but shite iru means, well, I've acquired the knowledge, but I still have it, so I know.
Got it.
はい。はい、いいです。So yeah, slight change. ロサンゼルスに住んでいると言っていました。はい。はい。See. Okay. はい。7番。結婚していますか？
たけしさんは結婚しないと言っていました。
はい、いいです。カティアさん、結婚していますか？
結婚していると言っていました。
Did you say so saying no?
No, saying yes. So,
はいはい。
結婚していると言っていました。
はい、いいです。はい、8番、車を持っていますか？
I'll go first. And I'm very proud because I recognize the kanji. It's car, right?
はい。
I couldn't remember what the hell, like what the pronunciation is, but I saw it and I was like, oh, that's car. Couldn't tell you how to say it, but I know that that's car. So that was fun.
That's awesome. Happens to me a lot too.
Really? 車をいると言っていました。
車を持っていると言っていました。
持っている。
はい。
Because it's something that you have in your possession.
はい、そうです。
So, holding te form iru, existing. Got it.
はい。はい、ジェームさん、車を持っていますか？
高見さんは車をあると言っていました。
Yeah, so you can say 車があると言っていました just to say, okay, well, as you know, there is a car, right? Or you can, just like Katya-san did, 車を持っていると言っていました。And both are fine. You can say, yes, I possess a car, or, well, there is a car. And context makes it clear. はい、9番、週末は大抵何をしますか？大抵 meaning generally, right?
ペンさんは勉強すると言っていました。
完璧です。いい学生ですな。はい。カティさん、9番、週末は大抵何をしますか？
Oh, okay, I'm unmuted. I can't read what I wrote. 週末は大抵寝ると言っていました。
いいです。That's what I want to do too. Besides teaching. はい。Yes. Okay. I'm going to share my screen again for the page 82. Okay. Roman numeral 1. Please don't forget your umbrella because it will rain this afternoon. Who wants to take that?
傘は忘れないください。今日雨あるから？
Close. I understood it. But let's look at this. So, 傘を忘れないでください。忘れる is the verb to forget, right? And we use the o particle here, which might seem weird, but it's the way it is. And then since this is a ichidan doshi, we just drop the u and attach ないでください。So, 傘を忘れないでください。今日の午後 we know this compound kanji since last week. Hooray! 今日の午後、雨が降りますから。はい。わかりますか？はい。
Okay.
はい。Okay.
雨が Sorry.
大丈夫。
I really just didn't do this very well at all.
大丈夫。I will also make the slides available, of course. Right? So it will be at the end in both the chat and in Discord, and of course I'll upload it also to the site. So it's okay if we don't have this all perfect right now. So moving on to the second question. Hey, James, please don't open the window because I am cold.
窓を開けないでください。私は寒いですから。
はい、完璧です。いいです。窓を開けないでください。寒いですか？ Right? Well, 私は you can clarify that, as you said. はい。3番 Please don't turn off the TV because I am watching the news. Katya-san, do you want to take this?
Yeah. テレビを消しないください。私はニュースを見るから。
見るから that works too. Yeah. So for kasu, we turn this into kesanai de kudasai, right? So instead of keshi, remember to use the arrow to negate it. So terebi o kesanai de kudasai. News o mite imasu ka, right? So currently, I am currently watching the news, right? But when you say, if you speak more informally, right, news o miru kara, that works too, right? It's very informal. But we can also say, well, right now I'm watching the news, so please don't turn it off, right? So news を見ていますか？はい、大丈夫。はい、4番、James さん。Please don't throw away that magazine because it's not my magazine.
Sorry, I skipped Yongbon because it had too many vocab words that I didn't know.
Part of chapter 8. はい。
I have
はい。かけさん、どうぞ。
雑誌をつてるないください。私の雑誌じゃないから。
Close, yeah. So, その雑誌を捨てないでください, right? So, that magazine, その雑誌を捨てないでください, right? So, 捨てる, I heard you say, right? Which is correct. It's a dictionary form. It's the ichidan doshi. So, to say, please don't do this, we drop the you of this ichidan doshi and attach ないでください. So, it becomes その雑誌を捨てないでください。私の雑誌じゃないですから。はい。はい。
じゃないです。So, から doesn't replace です。
Correct, right? And yeah, we attach it because we're speaking still somewhat formally here, right? So please don't do that. Hi. Okay, Roman numeral 2. So we have 切らないでください. The 辞書動詞 here is 切る, right? To cut. What do we have for 着ないでください? 2番.
2番. Wait, it's not kiru?
That is also kiru. Different kiru. So the first kiru is to cut. The second one is like to wear. Right? To wear clothes like above the waistline till neck. Yeah. Right. 3番、来ないでください。カティアさん。
来る？
来るです。はい。4番、書かないでください。ジェーンさん。
That's why I wasn't sure because I got confused because of the double ka. So I thought it was kadu, but then I was like, that's not right. So I just left it blank.
はい。カティアさん。
I'm sorry, are we doing number 4?
はい。
書く。
そうです。書く, right? Because we have 書かないで. Seems like this direction works better for you, Katya-san.
What?
From negative into dictionary form. Now you just have to do the dictionary form to negative.
Oh.
for the Roman. Because you did it this year. Correct here, right? So we have kakanai de kudasai. Please don't drop, right? And you know the dictionary form is kaku. So now we need to get you to the place where you can comfortably at all times turn the dictionary form, which you know, into the negation, like kakanai de kudasai, right? For godan doshi to move the final syllable into its equivalent, right? Except for u, because that would be wa. And then attach nai de kudasai, right? So, いいです。はい。5番、しないでください、ジェームさん。
5番、する。
する。はい。そうです。はい。6番、死なないでください。死なないでください。かてさん。
Shichi.
Shichi じゃない。
Okay.
Because we're trying to form the dictionary form of 死なない。James
Shinanu? Shinaru? It's either new or ru.
It's a tricky one. Hey, James さん。死なないでください。
Shine. It's not shine.
That's so rude.
I thought it was.
I thought it was saying don't die.
Yeah, I thought it was saying don't die.
Don't die. But what do you say when you say shine?
Oh,
you say
sorry.
die.
I'm reading it wrong. Wait, what?
When you say shine, you say die.
Oh, sorry. I'm reading it wrong. Because I have a problem reading the ones that look like pretzels.
Yeah. Okay. So what is it?
I think it's shinu.
It is shinu.
That's what I said. I said shinu.
Oh.
It's the pretzel with the curl at the end.
So this guy. So
no, I just didn't read. I don't know how to read them right.
Go in, Katya-san.
That's okay.
I thought you said chichi.
I did. No, I said that, and then I was like, I did say
say
chichi, and then I was like, wait, shinu, and then you're like, no, and I'm like, shinaru. You're like, no, and I'm like, well, it's either new or ru.
Well, I'm glad we cleared that up. Because so dictionary form, they always end in the u syllable, right? And some sort of u. Right. 7番。帰らないでください。Meaning, please don't come back.
Really? Oh. So it's kairu?
Hi, kairu. Hi. There's also another kairu, right? But yeah, 帰らないでください. Yeah, it's kairu.
Yeah, this one's to return, right?
Yeah. はい、8番、カテさん。
変わる?
変わる. Very. Oh, 変わ. There is a 変わる, but here, yeah, since probably cow, like please don't buy.
Cow.
Yeah, cow, right? Hey.
Oh, right, because it ends in u.
Hey. Yes. Okay, so let's read the dialogues of this chapter one more time. Page 186. 186ページ. Hey, we have dialogue one, Yui-san and Takashi-san. Hey, どうぞ.
I'll be Yui. Takeshi-san, 明日みんなでバーベキューをしませんか?
いいですね。誰が来ますか?
ノーラさんとロベルトさんが来ます。メリーさんも来るとメリーさんも来ると思います。
ケンさんは
アルバイトがあると言っていました。
残念ですね。何か持って行きましょうか。
何もいらないと思います。
Very good.
と思います。
はい、と思います。Very good. はい。Okay, let's do dialogue two. I'm just going to be Mary-san again, unless somebody else wants to be Mary-san.
No, you could be Mary-san. We need the practice.
はい。Then we have Yui and Roberto.
I'm going to be Yui. 上手 ですね。ロベルトさんは、料理するのが好きですか？
よく家で作ります。
何か手伝いましょうか？
じゃあ、トマトを切ってください。
Okay. It's your turn again.
Thank you. 始めましょうか。
あ、待ってのまないでください。メリーさんも来ると言っていましたから。
遅くなってすみません。じゃあ、
じゃあ
乾
乾
杯。
杯。
いいです。乾杯。
乾杯。
乾杯. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so there's actually a lot of stuff going on. So for example, if you look at dialogue 2, first line, Yui said, 上手ですね。おばあとさんは料理するのが好きですか? So we're gonna look at this 料理するのが好きですか and explicitly at 料理するの. Right? We know 料理 is cuisine. Yorisu is to cook. One of the ways to say to cook, for example, right? Anything else? Yeah, that's fine.
I'm so sorry. Can I go use the bathroom?
Of course.
I'll be right back.
All right.
Sorry again.
Pause. Okay, so we are going to dive into the no particle as a nominalizer. Hooray! So, quick definitions from the Dictionary of Basic Japanese Grammar. A nominalizer, which is used when the nominalized sentence expresses a directly perceptible event. What? Okay, so it's turning something into a perceptible event, or something is perceptible and this turns this into a noun. Okay, let's get another one. So in Genki, right, this is a little bit more specific. A verb short form, right? So a dictionary form, for example, not necessarily non-past, but we deal with non-past here right now. Plus no turns a verb into a noun describing an action. Okay, let's work with that. So let's look at an example. Oshieu means to teach, right? So oshieu, to teach, right? Or can mean to teach in the future, right? But for this case, let's assume, okay, oshieu just means to teach. Oshieu no turns this verb, oshieu, into a noun. And in English, we can say teaching, like the teaching, right? The teaching of the Japanese language, for example, right? And an example sentence would be, 日本語を教えるのは難しいです. This is actually an example from the Dictionary of Basic Japanese Grammar. So we have 日本語を教える, which by itself, right? 日本語を教える just means to teach Japanese, right? But if we extend it to this no, now the teaching of the Japanese language, right? And that in itself can be now seen as a noun, right? And one of the first ways how we use nouns is to say something A wa B des, right? And this B in this case is just a E adjective, muzukashi, right? Which just means difficult. But of course, it can also be tanoshi desu, which is another E adjective, right? It can be pretty much anything. The main point here is that this no particle, which comes directly before a verb in short form, here oshieru, turns this phrase into a noun. So Nihongo o oshieru no, the teaching of the Japanese language, which in a sense means then teaching Japanese is difficult. Right? Actually, let me go back real quick.
I have a question.
Yes.
So video games, right? You have video game o suru, right? So could you say video game o suru no? The playing of video games?
Correct.
I see.
Very good. So unfortunately, this actually, well, we don't go there yet. Yes, you're right. So, but next definition here, or part of it. So no is used when the preceding clause, right? So for example, Nihongo o oshieru expresses something rather concrete or perceptible. So playing a video game, very perceptible, right? Because there's also another nominalizer, for example, koto, right? So game suru koto, which could also work, right? Also means the playing of video games. And they're slightly different. We just work with no. But this something rather concrete or perceptible does not really hold the definition, because they're in the same book is, or it's debatable. Because, for example, wasureru, which means to forget, right? Can be used with no. But kangaeru, which is another verb meaning to think, cannot be used with no. To me, that sounds weird. I don't know about you, but just know that it's a little. This definition is a little iffy about the perceptible and not being perceptible. So I guess the story is that, well, technically verbs and short forms followed no turns this into a noun, but it does not work quite well with all verbs, which Genki of course fails to mention. The bottom line is, don't worry too much about it if you make a mistake, because you'll still be understood. And again, like even what's considered wrong, like even Japanese people make that mistake. And then he was like, well, they're native Japanese speakers and they make this quote unquote mistake. Language changes. Does this now become the norm, right? So just be aware of that. For example, JLPTN1, for example, right? Well, if you make a mistake on that, so what, right? So you don't know the rules, but then again, if your native Japanese speaking friends use no in a verb and they're well educated, and is it really a mistake? It's debatable. But yeah, essentially, no particle turns a verb into a noun. And this is super useful, for example, when we talk about likes and dislikes, which this grammar point in Genki is really about, right? So we have verb no ga suki or verb no ga kirai desu, right? So for example, I can say Nihongo oshieru no ga suki desu, right? So the teaching of the Japanese language is likable. That's actually what this is meaning, right? But we translate it as I like teaching Japanese, right? So ski, I hope I mentioned, I'm pretty sure I did, but I'm not sure if I drove this fact really across, because ski is a non-adjective, right? So it means really it is likable. Because if I say I like something, in English, this is a verb, right? This is an action in a sense. I like this over here. I like teaching Japanese. But in Japanese, this is not a verb. The ski, it's ski na, right? So if you say it in formal Japanese, we use ski desu, right? So, 日本語を教えるのが好きです。And then, of course, I can also say ski janai, right? Or, for example, to use kirai here, which is stronger than ski janai, I can say something like getsuyobi ni hataraku no ga kirai desu. Hataraku is one of the ways to say to work, right? Hatarakimasu. Hataraku no ga kirai desu. I don't like working on Mondays, right? So we can use these noun verbs plus no as a noun, and then use that in grammar structures that we really already know. So in some sense, this is a repetition of existing grammar forms with now opening up the possibilities, because we can turn verbs into nouns. Okay. And then they also combined it with verb no ga jōzu and heta desu, right? So this is jōzu, the first one. The ue te, right? We know both, well, we know ue, and we also know shika, right? But together with the hand kanji, it becomes jōzu, which is to be good at something, and heta, which is to be bad at something. I don't know why. I never investigated, but I always found this very interesting. We should try and look into that. Okay, but we, in the dialogue, right, we say, Yui-san said, Obato-san wa yorisuru no ga suki desu ka? Right? And then later, I don't know, what was the jōzu example? Because this is just liking it. I don't see one, but it's the same concept, right? Instead of just ski, we use another adjective, which in this case is jōzu. So Roberto-san wa yorisuru no ga jōzu desu ka? Right? Oh, there should be a question mark. I'll fix that, right? Or just remove the ka, right? Because now we have a question. Robert is good at cooking, or is Robert good at cooking? Gomenasai, right? And then also, of course, heta. We know Fuka-san wa eiri o kaku no ga heta desu. And this kaku, by the way, it's a different kaku than we already know, right? This kaku means to draw, right? You don't write pictures, you draw pictures, right? Sometimes you see both being used, but this is the more correct version. So Fuka-san, Fuka is bad at drawing pictures. We know that through Yotsuba.
Poor Fuka. I have a question. Just to clarify for myself. So the formula is verb no ga, and then either good at or bad at desu. Got it.
Because we have, for example, mikan ga suki desu, like I like mandarin oranges, right? And mikan in itself is a noun, or anime ga suki desu, like I like anime, right? So, and here we use verb no before ga to then say, transform the verb into a noun. And the same is true with jōzu and heta, right? So same formula. you have verb no, ga, and then one of these adjectives. Ski, kirai, jozu, and heta. So I would say, let's look at an example and do an exercise on Nihyaku-san page 203. Okay, so we have on page 203, thank you, Suru no ga suki desu. Right, that's the title, Roman numeral 6. So studying is likable. I like studying, right? Thank you, Suru no ga suki desu. Okay, but here we actually start with jozu or heta, right? Because A says, tell what Mary is good or poor at using jozu desu or heta desu. So for example, tennis, she's good at tennis. You would say, Mary-san wa tennisu ga jozu desu, right? Or swimming, she's poor at swimming, right? We know to swim is oyogu. So the sentence would be, Mary-san wa oyogu no ga heta desu, right?
Sorry, what page are we on?
Nihyaku-san page 203.
I have a quick question while James is looking for the page. Why do we have two different readings for the kanji here? I don't remember you covering like why does it change?
Two different readings? You mean jozu and heta?
Yeah.
Oh, the readings on te, on the hand? Can't really, or zu or ta in this case. Yeah, I can't really tell you.
Oh.
Yeah,
I mean, they both mean hand, right? Like they're like agile or like whatever it's trying to say. So there's no like explanation for why we're using hand, but we're using a different pronunciation.
Yeah, so ta is actually one of the readings of te, but yeah, jozu together actually is more of a, I guess, irregular reading. I don't, because zu is not, I believe, I would have to look that up, but it's not a, I guess, registered or common reading of the te kanji.
Okay.
But we know ue actually has the jo on Yumi reading. So yeah, not sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Cause Japanese. Okay.
I'll go first.
And let's say for Spanish, let's say to speak Spanish.
Okay. So it's hanasuru.
Hanasu.
Hanasu.
Hai.
So Mary-san wa Spain no hana suru?
Spain go?
Spain go no hana suru. We're using good. So shozu desu.
Almost. That's right. Oh, it's very quick.
Hanasu no.
Hanasu no. Hai.
Hanasu no ga heta no shozu desu.
Yeah, so Mary-san wa Supengo o hanasu no ga jozu desu. Right? So here we say nihon, as we say no nihongo o hanashimasu, right? To talk Japanese. And this is kind of a confusing part. And often we have multiple ways to say things. But since we're using a verb, Supengo o hanasu no ga jozu desu. はい。いいです。
はい、ありがと
う。はい、2番、ジェームさん。ジェームさん is bad at cooking.
Can you remind me how to say cooking one more time?
You have yorisu as in the dialogue.
Did you say yorisu?
Yori. Yeah. Let me guide you. We have that on page 186, right? In dialogue 2. 上手ですね。おばたさんは料理するのが好きですか? Right? This is a word that constantly gives me trouble. So you can look it up on page.
Yo. Yes, yeah. You. Yori.
Yeah.
Suru. That's it.
Hi.
Okay, I got it. Okay, so I'm saying Mary-san wa Yori suru no ga heta desu.
はい、メイさんは料理するのが下手です。はい。3番、メイさん is bad at making sushi.
メリさんは寿司を作り
Dictionary form.
作るの
はい。
が下手です。
完璧です。Wonderful. Perfect. はい。4番、メイさん is good at eating with chopsticks.
Okay, so I think I would say Mei-san wa abe no hashi de jozu desu.
Yeah, so we haven't really covered this. They snuck that in there, the whole de. So hashi is chopsticks, right? And the de particle here is by means of. It's a different de use of the de particle. I would prepend taberu with the means. So I would recommend to say Meiri-san wa hashi de taberu no ga jozu desu.
Oh, okay.
はい、もう一度お願いします。
Mei-san wa hashi de taberu no jozu desu.
のが上手です。
No ga jozu desu. You're right.
はい。いいです。5番。メイさん is good at taking pictures. カズさん。
メリさんは Oh my god. 写真を撮る
撮る。写真を撮る。撮る。
写真を撮る
写真を撮る。
撮る。Okay, so メリさんは写真を撮るのがしくれる
はい。
上手です。
はい、いいです。6番。ジェームさん。
Driving a car. What do I say driving?
運転する。
And then a car is a...
just 運転する is fine. You don't actually have to say 車を運転する. Just 運転する is fine.
メリさんは運転するのが 下手です。
はい、いいです。はい。7番、かけさん。
ネリさんは日本語を話せるの話す
うん。
メリさんは日本語をするのが上手です。
はい、メリーさんは日本語を話すのが上手です。はい。8番、ジェームさん。Mary is good at writing love letters. ラブレター。ラブレター。
Is the verb for to write kaku?
はい。
Okay, so, ネリさんは、ラブレター、that's funny. ラブレターを書くのが上手です。
メイさんはラブレターを書くのが上手です。いいですね。はい。わかりますか？
はい。
はい。Okay. Let's see. Maybe we'll do some more of these exercises later, depending on time, but it seems to be all right, which is good. Because now, okay, I'm gonna dread this, but it's important. We are gonna talk about the subject particle ga, which is a particle which indicates the subject, right? Simple enough. Okay. So just to be clear, this is not a comprehensive overview of wa versus ga, but let's actually look at an example. So this is an example of the dictionary for basic Japanese grammar. And this is quite a common sentence. We have 昔々一人のおじさんが住んでいました。All right. So we translate this as once upon, oops, another typo, go man. Once upon a time, there was an old man, right? Sunimashita. So I know there resided an old man, right? It's just a phrase, right? And we have ga here, so an old man. We don't know what old man, right? And this is usually followed by おじいさんはとても貧乏でした。Which means the old man, we're establishing the subject now as the topic. とても貧乏でした。貧乏 is to be poor, financially poor. Right. So what is happening here is that the ga over here marks the subject. And it does so when the information expressed by the subject is first introduced into a discourse, into a story. So it's first introduction. You might be thinking, well, why did we learn wa first? Right? But this is essentially how it is done. However, when the subject is presented as the topic, meaning the information has already been introduced in the discourse, so we both know the old man, the topic marker wa replaces ga. So actually, let me open Genki's part here. I know I kind of feel we need to go over this, but it's also confusing. So in the textbook on page 195, number 7, which is the subject particle ga, the second paragraph says, what if we both know that somebody went to Okinawa recently and I know that it was Robert, but you don't? I will say, Roberto-san ga Okinawa ni ikimashita. Emphasis is here on Robert. Right? You see also Robert being all uppercase. It is Robert who went to Okinawa. Right? So ga, in a sense, is used for emphasis here. Right? So yeah, it even says in the short paragraph below, this sentence means that Robert went to Okinawa, which in English would be uttered with an extra emphasis on the name Robert, which is the new piece of information in this sentence, right? So they use it as emphasis, but again, this is now relating to what is information that I might know, but not somebody else, because they just got into the, they don't have that knowledge yet, right? So this is the difference between wa and ga, one of the differences. Don't worry too much about it. This is something that, again, people use wrong all the time, wa and ga. And it's there, wa actually also replaces ga in many ways as well, where ga is the subject marking particle and wa is kind of like a topic marking particle, but wa also does a little bit more. So for example, where we use ga instead of wa, this is one of the usages, is in so-called interrogative words, which is like nani, for example, right? What or nan. Doko, where, dare, who, itsu, when, do or doyate, how, naze, right? Why. They are always marked by ga when they are the subject of a sentence. So, right, dare ga kikimasu ka, who came, and so on and so on. Right? So in this sentence, right, dare ga Okinawa ni ikimashita ka? Who was it who went to Okinawa? Right? Who went to Okinawa? So here you cannot use wa. Dare wa Okinawa ni ikimashita ka? Just wrong. That you do not use wa in this manner. And then the answer here, same as in the book, right? Roberto-san ga Okinawa ni ikimashita, right? And again, the emphasis is here this ga says, well, Robert went to Okinawa, right? As a response to who went to Okinawa. If we were to say Roberto-san wa Okinawa ni ikimashita, it would still be understood, right? You can say as for, but it changes the meaning slightly in that way. Well, as for Robert, he went to Okinawa, right? But here, Roberto-san ga Okinawa ni ikimashita. It was Robert who went to Okinawa, right? Of course, if we say, if you're talking about Robert already, right? We can say Roberto-san wa Okinawa ni ikimashita, right? We establish Robert as a topic, and then we can say, continue talking about all the things that he did over there, right? Without saying Roberto-san wa over and over again.
I have a question.
Yes.
How come we don't use ga when we're talking about like ikura, like the price of something? Is it because price is not considered a thing that like you could ga about?
Yeah, like この時計はいくらですか? Right?
Right.
Good question.
Okay.
Good question.
Just wanted to know. Thank you.
Good question.
Tension, sensei.
Good question. I don't have an answer, to be honest. So we can say ga, but as you pointed out, we do use wa, right?
Mhm.
So, but I guess in this case, it's not the subject yet. Yeah. See, it's hard. 日本語を教えるのは難しいですね。
はい。
はい。ごめん。Okay.
面白い。
面白いです。my struggling is 面白いな。はい。日本語も面白いです。はい。But what we can do is at least get the question part done. So let's look at 204 page 204, which is, let's do exercise A. 誰がイギリス人ですか? Right? Who's this British person? Who is it?
It would be Roberto Sanga, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Right?
you're doing the example. Sorry, I thought you were just asking us.
Oh, no, that's wonderful. That is wonderful. So, 誰がイギリス人ですか? Right? Is the title of this exercise and also the example. So, 誰がイギリス人ですか? is the question on page 204. Roberto さんがイギリス人です. Right? Wonderful. And Katya-san answered that already. Wonderful. So let's do 1番. 誰が韓国人ですか? Would like to take that. James-san, you unmuted. So 誰が韓国人ですか?
さんが韓国人です。
そうさんが韓国人です。はい。2番、誰が料理をするのが上手ですか?
Yori. Cooking, isn't that?
そうです。
Okay, so they're good at, they're good at cooking.
はい。
Roberto さんが料理をする上手です。
いや、するのが上手ですな。
Yeah.
はい、もう一度お願いします。
Roberto さんが料理をするのが上手です。
はい、いいです。完璧です。Wonderful. And we also noticed that so it is not uncommon to have multiple God particles in a sentence. Unlike what, there is seldom more than one particle in a sentence. はい。3番、誰がいつも食堂で食べますか? いつも is always. はい、ジェームスさん。
食堂。So I guess this is eating at the shokudo. So it's Takeshi-san da shokudo tabemasu.
Let's add some particles. So Takeshi-san ga itsumo, then
いつもは食堂
particle?
Oh, 食堂で because it's the place of action.
はい。
食べます。
はい。はい。たけしさんがいつも食堂で食べます。Very good. はい。4番。 誰がデートをしましたか？かきやさん。
誰が、so who デートを who had a date?
はい。
Okay. So, okay. たけしさんがデートするのweekend starts with a shokan?
週末。
Shumatsu, but I forgot last.
先週の週末を。先週末。But 先週の週末 is, I believe, how Genki introduces it.
So then it actually should be sen shumatsu. Takeshi-san ga deito shimashita?
はい。もう一人ですね。はい。たけしさん、もう一人。One more. Let's look at the same column. So we know that Robert went to Okinawa last weekend. What about Mary?
Oh, okay. Mary doesn't count because I didn't see her. Okay, so sen shimatsu. Yeah, sen shimatsu. Takeshi-san to Mary-san ga deito o shimashita?
はい、いいです。Or this is perfect, right? So the question here, right, just asking who went on the date last, or who went on the date, right? And you could simply also just, you gave more information, which is good. And this comes down to who was it who went on a date, right? We can just say, Mary-san to Takeshi-san ga deito o shimashita, right? And then we can provide also more information, or we can do it like you did in the same sentence as well, right? Oh. So usually more complex sentences are great, I think, but the ga particle also sometimes, again, it depends on the context, right? The overall conversation. Maybe I'm just speculating here. Maybe we know that somebody went on a date last weekend already, right? And then we just are interested in who was it, right? And then we can say Mary and Takeshi, those were the ones who went on the date, right? And then we can give more information on it if we had it. But perfect, I like it. Senchu Matsu. Hey. And then 5番、誰が犬が好きですか?
It means loves dogs.
はい。
Oh, sweet. Totally translated that.
Class is working.
Like, that means dog. Naraga. Okay, so let's see. Mary-san ga ino ga suki desu.
はい、メリーさんが犬が好きです。いいですね。Very good. Okay. All right. Let's do some kanji. And I suspect we have some more time afterwards for some more exercises. But for now, let's start with my. Is this okay, this view? Okay. So we have mae, which means before or front, right? So hotel no mae, in front of the hotel, for example. So 1, 2, 3, right? And then we have a little moon. This is my. Right, so this takes by itself just a kunyomi reading, mae. But last week we also learned gogo, right? And I remember Katya-san was, we can use gozen, but then did not know mae yet, because this is gozen, as you know, is AM, right? So before noon. But now we can write gozen, because this kanji will have the onyomi reading of zen, right? So if we add go, which we learned last week, right? Now we have gozen. Right. Okay. Next we have na, or also namae, actually. So it also has some other readings like me and sho, right? As in me, she, for example, business cards, sho me, and so on. But by itself, na, as in kimi no nawa, also. The first 1, 2, 3 strokes are actually katakana ta, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, right? And then we have our box here.
Isn't that mouth?
Exactly, yeah. So we have ta and mouth. Ta, katakana ta and kuchi. Right? So the combination, namae, right? Name, or more polite, o namae. Right? O namae. But by itself also, just na, as in kimi no nawa, right? Your name. So that is name. And then the
Question.
Yes.
Why? Oh, never mind.
Huh?
Ignore me. Ignore
Okay.
me. I was gonna ask you why Kimi no Nawa, your name. And then I like actually looked at the poster and I realized that the first kanji is Kimi, but it looks like Na.
Oh,
So
yes.
I was like, wait, why is it reversed? But now I'm actually looking at the poster and it's Kimi. So just ignore the last.
No, good question. The kimi, actually, the kanji is also used as a suffix, and then for kun, it's the same kanji, the same. Right. Okay. And then the last one for today, and actually the last, or in total for chapter 9, is fui, old. So just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then fui. Fui, right? And again, this is old just for things, right? You wouldn't call a person old using fui. And then there's another useful compound kanji that we can use, which is also in the textbook in the kanji section, which is chuko. So we have our chu as in chugakusei or chugoku, naka, etc. Right? We have chu and then ko. Chu, ko. And this means second hand.
So that's naka, right?
Hai.
So naka and furu make
Chu,
second
ko.
hand.
Yeah. So
Which-
for this,
Would you see this like on a Japanese thrift store?
I would think so, yeah.
And what's it called again?
Chuko. So it takes the onyomi reading here. That's on the slide.
Cool. Got it.
Yeah. So really just 2 readings to remember for this kanji. Ko as onyomi reading as in chuko, and then the kunyomi reading fu for fui, etc. Okay. And then homework will be a little bit more expensive.
Takai?
Huh?
Takai?
Extensive.
I swear I heard expensive.
Yeah, expensive in time allocated. It's going to be expensive. It costs a lot of resources to go over this. Well, time is money.
It was like a very like I was like, no, damn, like I'm gonna start saying that. Like if it takes a lot of time, I'm just gonna say it's expensive.
No, I did say that.
Oh, I love it.
For whatever reason.
I love it.
All right, so pages 83 to 86. And so what do we have? So what we just covered, right? Verb no ga hiki desu, verb no ga jōzu desu, etc. And then on page 84, it combines. Okay, well, just the subject particle ga and with nanika and nanimo. Then page 85 is just asking for to omoimasu, using to omoimasu. And then page 86 is a listening comprehension exercise. So it is going to take a little longer, but then we finally are done with chapter 8. And I know this is already a lot to ask, but if you can, since we are starting chapter 9 next week, try to start learning the vocabulary of chapter 9, right? At least read through it a little bit. I know homework is expensive. But yeah, if you can, I would like to encourage you to start learning the vocabulary of that chapter. And actually, for example, there's also numbers, right? Hitotsu, futatsu, mitsu, yotsu, itsutsu, mutsu, nanatsu, yatsu, kokonutsu, to is counted as 2 count small items. We already know a little bit of that. And then let's see. Yeah. So it's a little bit. And then the dialogues are, there are 3 dialogues, but they are fairly small with fairly short sentences. So, ganbatte kudasai na. Hi. You just call. Hi.
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Well, if you want, we still have a little bit of time.
I have to use the restroom.
I'll stop the recording. No. Hi.
Matthias, I was gonna ask, would you be willing to help me learn the lyrics of a song that I really like? Because I listen to a lot of Japanese music. And I feel like I know the lyrics. Like I understand, like I could sing along with the song because I can memorize that stuff pretty easily. But there's certain things that I don't every little thing. Here, I'll like find exactly what it is that I'm like trying to understand. Okay, so here's chat. So here's the Romanji version, which is not what I wanted, but I'm gonna drop that in first. I'm trying to find it in Japanese. So like there's certain things here that, oh, I found it. Like the very first, found it in Japanese. Oh, it's just translated into English. Make it stop. Oh, so like I understand like some of it, right? Like kill, which is like really fun. But then there's like little things here and there that I like don't really like. I could like pick out what in the translation what word correlates to what word, but there's like things that I don't understand. I'm trying to make this untranslate, and it doesn't want to untranslate.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, songs, certainly, yeah, songs are great ways to keep motivated and learn the language, right? I find it to be, because music is also an art form, right? So what you see, what I noticed, for example, when I learned English, right? And most of my English did not happen in a classroom. And specifically since in the German education system, you usually tend to not have native English speakers. And even at that age, I understood that, and maybe I should stop the recording for this, but essentially at that time, and even more so, British English had, at least for me, less value than American English. Just because of pop culture, and but we learned British English, the Queen's English, right? So I would then listen to a bunch of songs, like for example, Michael Jackson was big at that time, and one I would look into the lyrics there, and then couple bands and whatnot, right? And then I, as a child, I guess you think you understand a little bit more, and maybe you do, right? And I would bring that to the classroom, and my teacher had no idea what I was talking about, because I would use like contraction like ain't, right? And all that stuff. And so there's a lot of, in music generally is not too much of, I wouldn't say classroom Japanese, but it's a little bit different, right? So that is one thing that makes things more complicated. We see that also the case in Yotsuba, for example, that there's a lot of contractions, right? Like particles get dropped all the time, but then also like contraction like the teiru, right? The e gets dropped. Instead of the to particle, you have the small su followed by the te, things like that. So it's a lot more complicated. But I would like to maybe bring in some more things from pop culture into some of the lessons, if that's what you're asking. Certainly. Because I honestly do not have a good approach to like fully like parsing, because that's essentially what I do with Yomi.ai, right? Parsing the natural language. And in literary works, like in written Japanese, you have a little bit more information because you have things written down as sentences and paragraphs and whatnot. In songs, you miss a lot of information, just, you know, rhythm and even intonation, sometimes like that. So it's difficult, but yeah, I would, I think about how I can handle this request properly.
Okay. Yeah, just because I noticed that like one of like the song is called Rescue Me, right? And so like in the chorus, she says Sona wa watashi wo rescue me, which I always thought funny because she's basically like grammatically it makes sense in Japanese, but then when you add the English part to it, it stops making sense.
Yes. A lot.
So I always like, and so like I'm like curious, like kind of how that works. Like yeah, no, that's why I asked. I found it interesting.
Especially if English is trying to get force into a song for commercial success, it often does not make sense. And but you even have that in English songs as well.
Oh yeah.
So which makes it fascinating too, because you need usually a lot more context. What is this about? Like this does not make any sense at all. But yeah.
Okay.
I would like to support that because that is very, very fascinating. And that's also essentially how I, for better or worse, learned a lot of my English.
Oh, cool.
Right. So I didn't learn English in a classroom. I started, like I said, with songs, right? And then watching Conan.
The Barbarian?
Conan O'Brien.
Oh.
Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's why I have my accent still.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to do that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
And then a question to you. What I stopped to